Today, I'm going to answer your creative writing questions, and then I'm going to introduce a brand new segment where we go into the technique of the day. Now, this is going to be a creative writing technique that's going to help you build a better character. Welcome to Kauffman Writes. I'm Kauffman, and this is my daily live stream. I used to write a lot, but it's been a while. Now that I'm coming back to writing, how should I get started? Let's say that you have an experience in writing, but it's probably been maybe a couple years, a good 5, 10 years, and something changes in your life. You're like, all right, it's time to get back into that writing mindset. It's time to get back into it. And I wouldn't say I've ever taken that long of a break personally. Probably only taken maybe a few months, maybe 6 months at most. But something you always want to go back to is you want to think about what you're passionate about. What was the thing that made you want to start writing in the first place? So hold on to that feeling and don't let it go as you start in this new writing journey. Now, once you're getting back into it, you have two options. You can either do option one, you can return to one of your stories that you previously worked on the last time you wrote, or option two, you can start on a brand new story. There's value to going in either direction, but it really depends on A, what is your goal? And then B, what are you going to have the most fun doing? I think if you're just getting back into it, choose whichever option is going to give you the most fun. If you want to go with option one and you want to return to an old story, pick one of the stories that like really motivated you. But what I suggest is start from the beginning and not just rewriting it from the beginning, but take it through a full new draft and kind of like now that it's clearly had time, you'll be able to take it through a full drafting process. And then if you choose option number two and you just want to start something fun, start doing some free writes. Start with writing prompts and see what type of creativity comes from there. As a student, how should I structure a creative writing story for class? So a lot of the times when you get creative writing assignments in school, and I remember this from my days pursuing creative writing as a bachelor's, it usually the assignments will revolve around a specific style of storytelling. Because as you're progressing the class, they want you to improve bit by bit. And then usually in the end, then you'll have to write a fuller story, generally speaking. And that's assuming that it's like a structured class. The exception could be that it might be a workshop class, and then you have to do different stories periodically. Assuming that you're focused on just one specific structure. Let's say it's an assignment like you need to write a story using the 3-act structure. And that's actually a very, very easy, common one. What you'd want to do is first do a little research and understanding what is the 3-act structure. And then once you have that, then you can start developing what are the 3 points from it. And let's say that it's a little more open and it's a little more broad. They're just like, I do a writing story, and they're going to grade you on maybe like creativity, tone, voice, and all these different aspects. What I would say is break down each of the aspects that you're going to be graded on, right? So if you're going to be graded on dialogue, tone, and then grammar, right? Dialogue, tone, grammar. Break those 3 elements down. And then as you're creating the story, you can place a greater emphasis on dialogue, tone, and grammar. For instance, if you're being graded on dialogue, then you can write a story that heavily emphasizes characters who are going to be speaking more. But if you were writing a story that was going to be graded on, let's say, more world building, then I might do a little less dialogue heavy characters and focus more on descriptions and environments. So I always really try to like stress to students, what is it that you're being graded on? And then start from there. You can do whatever story you want, generally, assuming that there's no constraints on the type of story. Do the story that you want, but fit it and structure it to the grading system is my suggestion. All right. And question number 3. How do you turn a theme into a story? So this was actually a fun one that I saw a little earlier today. And sometimes this is what I end up doing when I start getting like inspired by something. So let's say that there's a theme that you like talking about. For me, I like write my favorite theme to address is actually the fantasy genre and the science fiction genre. I love to write stories that thematically challenge what it means to be a fantasy character and what it means to be a science fiction character. So my theme is what is the line between science fiction and fantasy? I love that type of cross genre and that type of theme. Very fun. So, what you want to do for the theme is first off, write down the theme in one sentence. What is the specific theme that you're trying to tell? And then once you have the theme, then you want to start creating your characters and the world based off that theme. So, let's say that the theme you want to tell is, and this is just on the top of my mind. So, let's say the theme you want to talk about is treating people you want people to take away leading and treating others with kindness, right? And when you treat others with kindness, you will win the day or you will get farther ahead. So, and if I was going to write that into a sentence, my theme: treat others with kindness so you can win the day. And then what I would do is I would write that down, and then the characters that I would create would be based off of that theme. You want to create your hero, your protagonist, and your antagonist first. Create those two. And of course, they're going to be completely evenly opposing, right? So if I wanted to create a character following the theme of kindness, I would create a character who's, actually, I would flip. I think I would flip the narrative and try to do something different. I would create a protagonist who's a complete asshole. He would start off as a complete like ass to like everybody out there. Literally doesn't understand it, is probably one of like the worst people possible. And something that's going to happen in the story is going to have to challenge him to actually be kind, or he's going to be severely punished. Which means that his complete antagonist has to be someone either who is kindest individual on the face of your world, or it could be someone who is challenging your hero to be kind for a specific reason. And the fun thing is, there's so many different ways that you can go about it. And that's the creative writing portion of it. All right. So I hope that answered your question. And if you have any creative writing questions, don't forget to drop the question down in the comments below, and I'll be happy to answer it for you. And I wanted to include bonus question. If you could create an anti-hero character, who would it be and why? Some of my favorite references or some of my favorite anti-hero characters would probably be Dexter or Walter White. Breaking Bad. I think those would be some of my favorite. I'm trying to think of any other anti-heroes that really come to mind. I mean, yeah, no, I would say Walter White's probably one of the best anti-heroes from a television show from Breaking Bad. If I were to create an anti-hero, I would create a character probably with a set of principles, probably a character who's been very, very severely punished in one way, shape, or form, probably traumatic background, um, some sort of trauma that has caused them to act in a way that's either evil or indicative and manipulative of other people. But the only way to do that is if you're going to give someone a very evil trait, you have to give them some type of positive defining value that will make the audience or the reader want to root for them. And that's the important thing with that, with anti-heroes. If you just create a character who's completely evil, doesn't do anything of redeeming value, you're going to have more of an antagonist. You're going to have more of a villain than anything else. If you don't give people a reason to root for them, then that's they won't stick along for the ride. And today's technique of the day is going to be the character profile. So essentially what I'm going to do is I started a blank page here to give you so you can see what I'm creating. And essentially a creative writing technique that I've learned over time is when you're writing a character. And now sometimes people will call this like character backgrounds, character indexes, character descriptions. Essentially, what you want to think of a profile is you want to think of what are the main defining traits or what are the main defining values that your hero or your antagonist is going to need, right? And this is a great strategy, especially for new writers who are still trying to get into the habit and the hang of developing new characters. All right, so you want to create a backstory. You want to create strengths. You want to create weaknesses. You want to create a belief system. What does the character believe in? You want to create a quirks. What is one thing that your character does that can be kind of quirky? And usually quirks are a great way for making your reader or your audience fall in love with your character. Sometimes a quirk, and this was described in one of my favorite screenwriting techniques called Save the Cat, which if you're a scriptwriter or screenwriter, I'm sure you've heard before. All right. And then, so you want to have a backstory, strengths, weaknesses, beliefs, quirks, and let's see. I would say you could put family. I would say like close connections, I think is a good way to put it instead of family because it's every character's view of what family is could be different. And these are the 6 that I would generally start out with. Of course, you could go into like a full detailed like 15, 20. Like there's so many different types of traits that you could add to it, but I want to start you off on going simple as possible. So if I was going to create an anti-hero character, uh anti-hero character, his backstory would be male character in his 30s was nearly killed as a child when his parents got into trouble with a government, like not government, with a private, got in trouble with a private company for stealing. No, I wouldn't say classified, for stealing, let's say, state of the art technology. That would be fun. So I could actually see this as a sci-fi novel. So then the backstory would be anti-hero character, male character. Actually, you know the character I would write? I don't know why I just came with this. I'm calling this character Tech. So okay, all right. Like the character named Tech in a in a sci-fi story. So I would Tech, he's going to be an anti-hero in his 30s, was nearly killed as a child when his parents got into trouble with a private company for stealing state-of-the-art technology. And I think there's some fun things I could do to play around with that. If I'm going to give him a strengths, oh, no, not that. All right, so strengths for Tech is he is, let's see, I would say he's witty. He's, you know what his weakness is going to be? His weakness will be is clumsy with technology, and very intentional. I think he's grown this hatred of technology as a result. Strength is he's hyper critical of others, and he is witty, hypercritical of others. What I'm going to do, I'm going to do something interesting here. Weakness, doesn't take care of himself. But I'm going to use one thing as both a strength and a weakness, is manipulative. And I'm going to specifically put this as both a character strength and a character weakness because you can do that. There's a lot of the times our greatest strengths are our greatest weaknesses. Belief that, let's make him a conspiracy theorist. Conspiracy theorist, everyone, people People suck and everyone is out to get him. Needs to deal with private companies so they get what they deserve. And then that deserve, that's the story. That's going to be the story of how we get to actually explore Tech's story as an anti-hero. Quirk, something fun about him. I would say Tech likes to let's see. Quirk falls in love easily. So we'll have a moment at the beginning of this story where it feels like he's like in this really intimate relationship with somebody, but it's actually like a first or second date. And then it flips it on his head because he's the one who's going to get hurt in the very beginning. Close connections. This like seems right for Tech. His cat and his dog, both of which fight and don't fight based on the day. So you see what I've done is I've created a very simple character profile. And now in creating the profile, I've created the outline and the base for a little bit of a story just in defining and determining his strengths and weaknesses, right? So that's kind of fun. Now, if I was to think about what is the story that I want to tell, the story is going to be about a character who struggles with a character who struggles with love and people decides goes on a revenge plot to take out the we're just going to call it private company who, let's say, killed, we'll put killed for now, who killed his parents as a child. There's the story. Tech, a character who struggles with love and people, goes on a revenge plot to take out the private company who killed his parents as a child. If you found any value from today's Kauffman writes, whether that was from the questions or the technique or the storytelling as I was narrating, please don't forget to like and or subscribe this piece of content because I value you and I want to continue to create things that help you grow as a writer. This is Kauffman, and I'll catch you on the flip side.